Okay, sit yourself onto your lift. Just come into good cross-legged position and just adjust the seat bones so that you feel like you're sitting evenly. My glasses are around here somewhere. So just feel that you are sitting evenly and with levelness at the seat bones. So just in cross legs, holding onto your knees, lifting up into the chest, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just listening to the sound of the breath. Just close your eyes for a moment and just observe the balance of your seat bones. Focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. Just a few inhalations and exhalations, feeling how your breath is feeling this morning. So sometimes you might notice that your breath feels uneven, like the seat bones feel uneven. Maybe after sitting for a little while, you observe that perhaps the seat bones do feel uneven. So if they do, just move the buttock flesh, just adjust your position so that you're sitting definitely evenly. Open your eyes and just look down at the floor. Look at something that doesn't move. Focusing on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. And then release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste. Press the palms firmly together, lengthen your armpits away from your elbows. Lengthen your elbows away from your armpits. And then with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close, but keep your eyes still in the sockets underneath the lids. Just focus on the balance of the seat bones and the balance of the breath. Just listening to the breath. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Observing that as you inhale, your chest rises upwards and outwards, and as you exhale, chest lowers and the intercostal muscles around the ribs relax. Gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that abundance in the heart area, and then very gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, bringing the tips of the index finger and the thumb together. Just lengthening the other fingers away from the palms, just a gesture of wisdom, intelligence, and peacefulness that we can carry into our practice. And with an exhalation, allow your head to raise and allow your eyes to softly open. Just hold onto your knees, lift up into the heart area, drawing the shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose, and with an exhalation, come to the right side, drawing your abdomen across. Your abdomen and your ribs and your shoulders, keeping your neck soft. Just observe your body's resistance. Use your out breath to just move beyond or move into the pose a little more deeply. Acknowledging your resistance, but drawing your focus beyond that resistance into areas of the body that present little or no resistance. So we're not ignoring the resistance, we're just not dwelling on it. Just breathe evenly. Observe the balance of the seat bones. Draw your focus into the seat bones. Observe if they feel even or one is heavier than the other, and then adjust the torso accordingly to bring it directly between the two hips. Come back to the center. Hold on to your knees and lift up into the chest. Take a deep inhalation, and then with the exhalation, turn to the left. Just listen to the breath. Maintain the balance of the breath, balance of the seat bones, observance of resistance, observance of non-resistance. So it's quite a useful metaphor for life, I think, to acknowledge resistance, but rather than dwelling upon it, you draw your attention to non-resistance. because then you can handle the resistance with balance. Come back to the center. Lift up into the chest, elevating the torso out of the hips. Lifting the chest. Stretch your arms out in front, drawing your consciousness into each individual finger. And then raise your arms up. Raise your arms up, spreading the palms, feeling that although you can't see your fingers, you can feel them. Feel them in 3 dimensions, spreading the palm skin, feeling that the palm skin is stretching, broadening, not just from the left to the right, but from the heel of the hand into the knuckle. Spreading your fingers. And then bring the hands together and then back into Namaste, pushing the palms together, lifting up into the chest, drawing the shoulders down without losing the lift of the spine. And then just release your hand. Come down onto your knees. Have your big toes together and your feet apart. Sit back on your heels and allow the shins to mould themselves into the floor. Observe how the shins connect to the ground. Maybe they don't connect fully to the floor. If you're on a soft floor, they're more likely to make full contact. If they're not making full contact, then just lift the front of the shin and draw it forward, so that you make really good contact with the floor. Press the shins consciously into the shin skin, so that the legs activate, so that the legs almost want to turn outwards from the inner thigh to the outer thigh. Lift up into the chest, almost like the torso wants to leave the hips behind, but keep the hips really firmly down as you lengthen forwards. Lengthening forward, just stretching the hands away, and then just find the floor. Spread your fingers, spread your palms, and then bring the forehead down. So maintaining that connection between the seat bones and the heels if you can. So in this pose, is there balance? Does it become head and arm centric? To the seat, do you lose contact of the shins? Do you lose contact of the seat bones? So try and pin the shins to the ground. Turn the tailbone in to keep the seat bones in contact with the heels. Lengthen from the hips into the armpits, into the elbows, into the wrists, into the palms. Can you balance the level of effort between the arms and the legs? So the legs feel kind of oddly trapped in this pose. Trapped isn't the right word, actually. They feel oddly kind of, can't think of the word, but you know what I mean, probably. So hit the seat bones down into the floor. Lengthen into the arms. Come up onto your knees, have your little fingers on the edge of the mat, the thumbs stretching towards each other. Turn your toes under and then come up into dog down, just lifting the seat bones, activating the legs, tightening the kneecaps, hitting the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs, feeling that the backs of the thighs can open up So after closing the backs of the legs in Adho Mukha Virasana, we open up the backs of the legs, especially around the backs of the knees, in dog down, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Lifting the thighs up into the hip socket, lifting the kneecaps up to the thighs, lifting the shins up to the kneecaps. Just observe your internal balance. Is there even action on the left side and the right? Is there even action between the arms and the legs? Is your breath still long, slow, deep, deliberate, like it was in swastikasana? Can you breathe evenly into both lungs, evenly out of both lungs? Just stretching out the backs of the legs by pushing the fronts of the legs through to the backs. Pushing the hands into the floor, lifting from the wrists into the elbows, into the armpits, into the hips. Okay, step your feet forwards. Just come up into standing position. Have your feet as wide apart as your mat. We're going to go into full Uttanasana. But if you know that full Uttanasana is not good for your back, then you can use the blocks and come into half Uttanasana, lengthening the spine away, just coming halfway. So otherwise, have the feet as wide apart as the mat. So for either of the poses, have the feet as wide apart as the mat. Lift the kneecaps, lift the thighs, turn the fronts of the thighs inwards so that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards, and then tuck the tailbone in without losing the action of the legs. Hit your shins back so that your weight goes into your heels. Lift up into the chest, raise your arms. Have your arms wide to start off with, presenting the chest to the skies. Take some deep inhalations and exhalations. If you're coming into half Uttanasana, keep your arms outstretched. If you're coming into full Uttanasana, tuck the thumb into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around your elbows, and then keep your head lifted. Keep your arms lifted as you come forwards, hinging at the hips, feeling again the back so the legs are being woken up. So just half or full Uttanasana, whichever feels more safe for your back. Hit the shins back. So whichever pose you're doing, it's the legs that need to do a lot of work. So hit the shins back so that your weight is in your heels. Lift the seat bones up away from the heels. In half Uttanasana, project into the chest. In full Uttanasana, project into the chest. So sometimes you just hang down, but actually you can still extend into the spine. If you're in half Uttanasana, keep lengthening the spine away from the legs. Giving yourself space to breathe. Is there even action between the left side and the right side? Is the in-breath similar in duration to the out-breath, which is longer? So I'm not asking you to control or activate the breath. I'm just asking you to observe it. Because before activation, before true activation, observation needs to come. Okay, if you're in full Uttanasana, just bring your hands to the floor and come into half Uttanasana. Lengthening the chin and the chest forwards, lengthening the seat bones to the ceiling, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. And then bring your hands into your hips, come up into a standing position, bend your knees on the way up if you need to. And then come into Tadasana. Just filling your lungs from the bottom to the top. Filling your lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying them from the top to the bottom. Stretch your arms out in front, again drawing your consciousness into each individual finger. Broadening the palms, and then turn the palms all the way around. And like you're doing the breaststroke, stretch behind you, and then bring the tips of the fingers together, and then walk your fingertips up towards your neck. And at this stage, your hands are probably like this. So can you wing your elbows back and then lengthen from the shoulders into the ears, not shoulders into the ears, shoulders into the elbows, sorry. And then elbows into the heels of the hands so that the palms come level. And then the heels of the hands up into the fingertips. That is actually a really important part of it. Heels of the hands into the fingertips, it helps you to lift the chest. So just be in namaskarasana. If you really can't do it, then just get hold of the opposite elbow. Lift up into the chest, winging those elbows back, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. Emptying them from the top to the bottom. Breathing with evenness. And then gently release your hands, spread the fingers. Spread the palms, lift up into the chest. Turn your palms all the way out, rotating the upper arm in the socket. So feel that your hands are still in your back, opening the chest for you. Just listen to the breath. And then stretch your arms out in front again. Bring your hands behind you, back into Namaste, behind the back, now back into Namaskarasana. Maybe this time you can get your hands a little higher up your back, towards the neck. And then wing the elbows back, lengthen from the shoulders into the elbows, and then bring the elbows in towards each other, pushing into the heels of the hands. And then from the heels of the hands up into the fingertips. Feel the openness of the chest. Keep your hands in Namaste. And then step the feet apart. Turn your left toes in and your right leg and foot all the way out. Just seeing if you can bring the hips level by really rotating the back leg, the front of the thigh from the outside to the inside, from the little toe to the big toe. Lift up into the chest, keeping both legs rotating, and then come forwards into parvottanasana. Lengthening the chest, stretching from the heel of the hand into the fingertips to lengthen the spine. If you need to, you can let go of your hands, reach the floor, or use blocks under your hands if you can't reach. Keeping the breath even and deep. Keeping the jaw and the tongue soft. Just release your hands. Just lengthen the spine away with your hands on the floor, and then bend that front leg, step forwards, and then come up into a standing position. And come back up into Tadasana. So the blocks on the other side, on the left side of the mat if you needed them last time. Just breathe even deep inhalations and exhalations, just observing your breath. Stretch your arms out in front, bring your arms out nice and wide, and then the third namaskarasana always feels a little more natural. So activating the arms and the palms, and then step or jump the feet apart, and this time turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out, turning that right heel all the way out so that you've got more chance of bringing the hips level. Rotating both legs from the little toe side to the big toe side, especially that back leg so that the hips come level. Lengthening from the heel of the hand into the fingertips. Keeping the front chest really long. Maintaining that length from the heel of the hand into the fingertips. Breathing even, deep inhalations and exhalations, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards. Keeping that back leg straight, the tightening the kneecap, front leg straight. And then release your arms, just bring your hands onto the floor, and then bend that front leg, step forwards with the back leg, and then come back up into Tadasana. Just breathing even, deep inhalations and exhalations. So just feel how you've lifted your energy. There's lots of energy in the chest and the arms and the head and the legs. Just come down onto your knees. Have your hands shoulder width apart. Step back, turn your toes under, have your feet hip width apart, and then come up into dog down. So after parvottanasana with the hands in namaskarasana, this maybe feels a little lighter. Continue to push the fronts of the legs through to the backs so that you open up the backs of the thighs. Just listen to the breath. Spread your fingers. Allow the breath to maintain its evenness. Okay, and then come down onto your knees. And then just lift up into the chest, just observing the energy that you have released through your practice, full of lightness and energy in the arms and the shoulders and the spine and the legs. So we're going to use a bolster for supta konasana. So have a blanket for your head, and then we're just going to sit ourselves in konasana to begin with. So in konasana, it's a seated position. Have about an inch away from your seat bones and the bolster, just to give you a bit of space. You don't want to kind of be too rammed in when you come back. But before we go back, it's good to just use konasana. So hold on to the big toes like you do in padangusthasana. Index finger and the middle finger underneath the big toe. Wrap the thumb around the inside of the big toe. And then just work to draw the knees down to the floor and elevate the heart area up to the ceiling. Have your elbows wide so that you're not kind of constricting your side ribs with your upper arms. Lifting up into the chest, lifting up into the spine. And then release the feet, but keep the spine long. Bring your hands behind you and then lift the chest as you guide yourself down onto the bolster. If your head rolls back with a single kind of fold of the blanket, then I think a double fold of the blanket really does the job. If there's stiffness in your hips, put blocks underneath your thighs. Otherwise, just feel how the bolster broadens the abdomen and the diaphragm region and the chest. Have your hands on the floor, palms facing upwards, just resting on the middle knuckle of the hands. And then just observe your breath. If you've got anything to cover your eyes, like an eye pillow, then you can use that. It just brings quietness and focus and concentration. And just observe your breath. Observe your in-breath and your out-breath. Just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. As you inhale, observe how the chest rises upwards and outwards. As you exhale, observe how the chest lowers, the intercostal muscles relax, the lower ribs relax. Observe the sound of the in-breath and observe how it differs to the sound of the out-breath. Breathe consciously into both lungs evenly. And breathe out of both lungs evenly. Breathing in from the bottom of the lungs to the top. Allowing the in-breath to be as non-resistant as you can. Because non-resistant lungs absorb more of the energy of the breath. Breathe out from the top of the lungs to the bottom. Soften the inhalation, soften the exhalation, just observing how that breath changes as you focus on it. So we're not trying to control the breath at this stage. This is just Ujjayi pranayama stage 1. This is just an observation. Because in order to effectively activate, we need to observe, we need to know where we are in order to drive it to the next level. In a moment, we're going to move into Ujjayi stage 2, where we focus on normal inhalations and long, slow, deep, steady exhalations until the lungs are empty, followed by normal inhalations. And then slow, deep and steady exhalations until the lungs are empty. Normal inhalations. So you can either do continual cycles, which is better if you can, or you can do intermittent one cycle of the extended exhalation and normal breathe in for a few cycles and then just go back. Just whichever works best for you. So whenever you're ready, just take a normal exhalation. A normal inhalation and then a slow, deep, steady exhalation until the lungs are empty, until the sound of the breath stops. And then normal inhalation. So there should never be any feeling of tension around the chest, nor the diaphragm, or the head, or the neck. Just slow, deep, steady exhalation until the lungs are empty. Just remaining conscious of breathing from the top of the lungs to the bottom as you exhale. Observing the lowering and the contraction of the chest with the exhalation and the expansion of the chest with the inhalation. And then just completing your cycle that you're on, and then bringing the breath back to Ujjayi stage 1, just normal breathing, just with observation. So the third stage of Ujjayi pranayama is where the out breath is normal, although it might feel a little longer than usual, but without any conscious extension, just a normal exhalation and a slow, deep, steady inhalation. Breathing from the bottom of the lungs to the top, breathing into both lungs evenly. Inhaling until the lungs are full, until the sound of the breath stops. And then normal exhalation. So just a few more cycles of normal inhalation, normal exhalation. And then a consciously normal exhalation, and then a slow, deep, steady inhalation, breathing until the lungs are full and the sound of the breath stops, breathing into both lungs evenly. So normal exhalations, slightly extended inhalations until the lungs are full. Whenever you're ready, just moving into stage 3. Allow the eyes to remain soft in the sockets. Because when you take a deeper inhalation, sometimes you allow the eyes to lift into the sockets. So try and keep them neutral, try and keep them soft. And then completing the cycle that you're currently working on until you bring the breath back to a normal rhythm. normal inhalations, normal exhalations. If you're using the eye cover, then just remove that. Just allow body to just rest into the floor. And then push your elbows into the floor, lift your chest, and then bring yourself back up into konasana, holding the big toes, lifting up into the chest. Elevating the heart area upwards, and then just turn to the right side, bring the right hand behind you, bring the left hand onto the top of the right foot, and turn all the way to the right side, trying to get your belly button to face that right knee and beyond it. Digging the back hand into the floor to keep the spine lifted and long. And then just come back to konasana, holding the big toes. Lifting the chest. And then turn to the left, bringing your right hand on top of the left foot. Digging the back hand into the floor, lifting up into the chest. Up into the spine. And turning. Using the out breath to intensify the turn, trying to get the belly button to point towards that left knee and beyond it. Parvottanasana, konasana. And then just come back to the centre, and then just stretch out your legs. Just lay out the blanket for your head. Have the bolster for underneath your knees. But before we just completely relax into sirvasana, we're just for a moment or two just going to hold onto the sides of the mat, pull your knees into the chest, and then just raise your legs up just for a moment or two. So just see how freely you can breathe. So no longer concentrating on extending breath, just allow the breath to be. And then release the legs. So you can either have the bolster underneath your knees, or you can put the bolster, just lay yourself in a straight line and put the bolster over the tops of your thighs, just to help your legs to relax. And then just make sure you're in a good straight line. And then close your eyes, rest your head on the blanket. And let the body sink into the ground, let the body become heavy, letting go of the muscles of the arms and the legs. Consciously unhooking the muscles so that the body just feels its weight into the ground. And from that perceivable heaviness comes a feeling of lightness that radiates out from the bones and into the muscles. Filling the muscles with positive energy into the organs. into the flesh and skin, filling the body with positive energy. Use your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that energy evenly all the way down to the tips of the toes, to the tips of the fingers and to the top of the head. Tingly lightness in the limbs and the fingers and the toes and all the way up into the head. Just basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And then when you're ready to disturb yourself, just gently wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, just bringing yourself back into this pose of shavasana. And then if you've got the bolster on you, then take it off your legs, have your feet apart, your knees together, and then gently roll onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out your top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just a final cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift. Draw your breath consciously down into the abdomen. Samanic breath that helps you to acknowledge your energy. Acknowledge the positive energy you've created through your practice, through the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the reclining poses and the pranayama. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek, to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside, and then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees. Palms facing upwards, and then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you've really lifted your energy. You've given yourself lots of good, positive energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.